The name is Brandon Groce. And we are the Game Changers. Designers, creatives alike. We are in a world that runs on value. Our next designs will be the shiniest. Our next animation will be the most buttery. Ladies and gentlemen, Game Changers, let the games begin. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Editor X Live with me, your host, Brandon Groce. I'm super excited to have you all here with me today. And I just want to say hi to some of you guys. We have Beatrix, we have Dimma, we have Arif, we have Maria, and Lisa. How are you guys doing? If you are also in the chat and you have not said hello, fear not. Say hello. We're all friends and family here. And guys, we're going to jump right into things today. Yesterday was our welcome day for our daily creative challenge for the next 2 weeks. And the dates are going to be from February 28th all the way to March 11th. Now, with that being said, that's 2 weeks of beautiful daily creative challenges for each and every, literally for each and every day. Yesterday's segment was 30 minutes. Today we have a full hour together to create some really what is a portfolio web page for us in an hour. And we I have set things that I want to get over today, but if we have extra time, I would love to definitely get in some animations and things of that manner today. And also, with that said, before I dive any deeper, we do have some house cleaning items today. Before we get started, if you haven't already, in the description, you can join our Discord, which is the second link in the description of YouTube. And also, we have the first link being a Dropbox link that you can download the assets and really the design file of what it is that we're going to build today. And without further ado, I'm actually going to switch to my screen, show you guys how to sign up for Editor X and then what we're going to build today, and then begin. All right. So what's going on, Andrew? Good to see you, my friend. All right, really quick, changing screens here. So first off, if you're brand new to Editor X, and please let me know if you put one in the chat if you're 100% new to Editor X at all. First off, if you want to follow along with me in the next 2 weeks, you definitely want to start at least. Go to editorx.com, go to start now, sign up for your free account, and join us and follow along with the cool things that we're doing for the next 2 weeks. That aside, what we're going to be building today, obviously you guys probably will not want to use my face for what it is that you're going to be using or designing for your submissions. But if you do, that's what the Dropbox link is for, and try to make your guys' life easier. So this is what we're going to build from a desktop all the way down to mobile, and we might get to some animations and some flary things as well. There was a couple of you guys asking in the Discord how to deal with gradients, how to deal with containers, or excuse me, sections, containers. We're going to go over all of those things today because they apply to this project. So with that being said, if you haven't already joined our Discord, brief overview, you can join our Discord by using the link down in the description, and you just join. Make sure you go to the Get Verified channel, you make sure you follow the directions, and you hit agree so that you can actually accept the terms of service and actually interact with your friends in the Editor X family. Now, quick things, don't have to go, we did all of this yesterday, but where you'll get updated about all the challenges for the next 2 weeks are in the weekly challenge channel. And if you have any questions either during and or after these live sessions, feel free to ask your questions in the Ask a Questions channel. We'll be showing you how to submit your challenges today for this particular challenge today in our challenge section. And you can just chat it up in our chat section here like you see so many other people doing. And you can also introduce yourself. All right, so that's the house cleaning items. Let's actually dive into designing, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Maria, come join our Discord. What's going on, Lorraine? What's going on, Bagul? And I'm sorry if I'm butchering names. I will learn. Okay, so I have a already built out website in Editor X, and I have our tablet, I have our mobile, and I have our desktop. So what we're going to do today is just recreate this puppy from scratch. I already have all of my media in here, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my pages, and I'm just going to make a whole new page. I'm just going to go to add new page, add, and I will do homepage 2. And so what I have here is I'm actually going to clean this out. So it
kind of gave us, basically, because my header is a master, it basically, every page that I make, it gives me 2 masters, the footer and the header. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to detach from masters. You guys won't have to do this, because every time you guys make a blank website, you guys just get a blank logo. You guys get a blank slate. But because I'm doing this in one of my current projects, I'm just deleting the assets that were in here in another master, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do here is just delete all of this stuff. I'm just going to detach from masters so I don't mess up the other sites that are using that master. Kind of think about it as a component if you're used to EditorX, Sketch, or Figma. So I'm just going to delete all of these things, my logo. I'm going to remove my grid here, delete grid, because we're going to do all this stuff together. Dun, dun, just deleting everything. All right, so we have a clean, I'm going to just go to my layers panel too to just make sure I have a clean everything. All right, I actually do not want to delete that menu. We'll do it all. We will do it all. Okay. So what I want to do first is we are going to get what we want in the background. If you guys remember my image, and actually I need to bring that up for myself on the side of my computer here. So we have a gradient in the background, and we have a menu overlapping the background as well, or overlapping essentially. So this is basically transparent back here. So what we're going to do is answering one of the questions that we got today, how to deal with gradients. And personally, this is just what I've been doing. I basically export a gradient either out in PNG or as a JPEG. So what I'm going to do for this is I am going to add an element here in my sections, and I'm going to just grab an image. I'm going to full scale it. And by the way, I think, Lorraine, this was your question. How do you scale out a section just by dragging it? So you want to make sure you have a section, and you want to make sure you have your section selected here. For example, if I just click my image, or if I just click in this area, you know, I'm selecting my image so I don't get that little drag indicator. So again, make sure you're selecting the section you want to either increase or decrease. Click right here in between, like at the bottom of that section you want to scale, just pull it down to where you'd like, and ta-da. So we'll be changing what that is because I want to have a 100% VH, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. And for those of you who are like, what is 100% VH? It just means 100% of the viewport height, so that it's 100% of, if you know, your desktop screen, your tablet screen, the screen that we are creating isn't able to scroll. We're going to do something a little bit different on mobile though. So what I'm going to do here is I have my image. I'm going to change this to my background gradient, just like this. And so we have a black to dark purple. Now what I'm going to do here with our menu is I'm going to make this be on top. Well, first off, one of the things I want to do is I want to make sure that the background is 0. So that I don't want any color on my navigation. So I'm going to go back to my layout. And by the way, please do let me know if I'm talking a little too fast today and you want me to really go into something nitty gritty. We do have a lot of time. We're doing good on time. We're only 9 minutes in. So let me know. Lorraine says, great. So click the section first, then you can drag. Yes, perfect. Because if I do click if I click what I think is the section, right? You see how I have selected the change image? We want to make sure that in our layers panel, we make sure that the thing that I want to edit is actually the thing that I have selected. So make sure I've selected my section. I go towards the bottom. You see where my cursor changes right here. I get that nice little arrow, and now I can pull it up. I can pull it down. So that's what we're looking for. So now our menu, what we're going to do here are our menu section, or our header really. What I want to do is I want to change the position type, and we find the position type in the inspector panel, in our layout panel right here, under position, and I want to do pinned. There we go. And why is it not letting me do that? It's not. Hold on 1 second, guys. Sticky, pinned. All right. Hold on. We might do this first. I think this is what we need to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click my body section here, and I'm going to make this sticky. And I'm going to go back to my top section, and maybe this is what. I don't know why it's not letting me do that. That is odd. Regardless, we don't need to do that. We can figure it out from here. So what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to kind of improvise here. I'm going to make this a nice little dark purple, and I'm going to actually steal. Let me see. I'm going to try to steal that purple that we have up there. Trying to get the exact hex code. There we go. I'm going to add a new color here. There we go. I'm just going to do that just for now until we figure out why exactly it wouldn't let me pin it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete this container because we don't need that. We're going to do everything from scratch with you guys. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on our header just a little bit. We need a couple things in here. First, Lorraine, back to your thing. We're going to work with we're going to work with grids here. So I have 3 parts, if you guys remember, with the design. So what we have here, I'm going to pull this back on screen. I'm going to make 3 sections. I'm going to make a section, or basically 3 columns for our logo, 1 column for our menu, and another column for our social media here. So I'm going to click my section, and I'm going to make sure I click apply grid. I'm going to click the 3 by 1, just like that. And so as you guys will barely be able to see it, but I'm going to hover over so you guys can see. There's 2 little slits here, just like that. And so we have 3 partitions, and now I can manipulate these to have the right side just be our logo, the middle be our menu, and the right side be our social. So, and there's a couple ways I can manipulate this. I can manipulate this just by dragging, just like that. And you know, that's honestly what I'm going to do here. There are ways, which on the right side, I'll show you guys how to actually use calculations to make sure that basically that will just, a box that will just contain the exact pixel size of our social media blocks. So I'm just going to drag this side of our section just like this. Or excuse me, our grid, because what I want to do is I want to make space for my gradient and my logo. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make sure I've selected this section, checking my layers to make sure that's the case. And there's a couple ways you can do this. I like to right click and quick add, and I'm going to add an image. And there's 21 million ways that you guys can pull an image in, okay? And have no fear if you bring in the image and it just pulls out your grids. Just drag it and it will snap exactly to the height that you had it at. So I'm actually going to scale this up. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to stretch it and I'm going to change image. I already have my assets in here. I've uploaded a rectangle just like this. Or my gradient, sorry. I'm not sure if I said rectangle. I think I just read the title. So boom. And now what I want to do is I am going to make another one of these. So I can do a couple things. I'm just going to do Control D or Command D if you have a Mac. And I get a second image here. So if you guys see that. And what I want to do with this is I want to change image. And I'm going to pull my logo in there. There we go. And now what you might see, I'm just going to click off. You see that it gets cut off just like that. Sometimes that happens, but something that is extremely helpful is if you go to your settings or your cog icon here, and you go to reset image. The only reason it was cut off was because I was using basically the constraints of this previous rectangle, brought in a new image, and the constraints applied to the image that I brought in. So I'm just resetting the image. It's the perfect size that I need now. I can scale it to whatever size I would like, and I'm going to place it right in the center making sure that it's in the center of my purple gradient rectangle and that it is in the right side, or excuse me, the left side of our grid here. And so I can check all this. So what I'm going to do is I have my section here, right? I have image 1 and I have image 2. This image right here, and of course, if you're working with people, please name your layers. I like to happen to work a little bit quickly. So for this, you know what? We'll go ahead and rename. We'll just do gradient. So you guys at home don't get lost. And me when we start getting more things on the screen. And we'll just call this logo. Francisco says, joining from Colombia, great tutorial. My friend, glad to have you here from Colombia, and I'm glad that you're hanging out with us. If anybody has any questions at any time, please do let me know. And if you are enjoying what you're watching, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe and join our Discord. All right, so next thing I want to get in our menu, okay? And I am going to just go to add element here. I'm going to go down to menu and search, and I can pull in just a menu just like this, and I'm going to pull it right into, I'm going to try to drag it right on top of our this section where our header is supposed to be. Now we don't see anything because the text of this is black. And so how I know that is I've clicked the selection here, the asset, and I go over to the inspector panel and I go over to text. Again, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, where literally everything that you click on in the inspector panel, you have all of the attributes that are editable that is in relation to the asset. So for here we have our text, color, the theme, the font size. We have shadow options. We have, do we want to edit the corners? And of course, this is the actual color of the of a sub menu. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to worry about the actual text. We're going to make it white so we can see what's happening. And for those of you who are like, well, how did you just get all of these pages just pop up there? How that works is if we go to pages, and I'll make a couple with you just so you guys can see this. If we make, and the pages for our website is basically this icon here. If I hover over it, it will say pages or site pages right here. And I'm just going to make a couple new pages. I'm going to make Bagul. I'm going to do Maria. And just for right now, so you guys can see how this works. All right, so I'm going to go back to our home one because that is the website that we are working on. And I'm going to click our menu just like this. I'm going to go to manage menu. And so what we can see here is we can see all of the menu items from the previous pages that I've made, because I had to do this to make sure it all worked out. We have our home, we have our tutorials, we have our portfolio, we have our shop, and our contact. We basically brought in all of these pages through selecting add item. But I'm actually going to delete all of these so you guys can see how this works. Remove from menu. Actually, you know what I'm going to do with you guys? Because if I change this menu, this is going to mess up my other pages. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, let me see, manage site menus just like this. I'm going to add a new menu. So this will be test menu or tutorial menu. I got to think of ways to like change things so it doesn't mess up the actual website that I am showcasing for you guys. So I've made a new site menu, and now I have basically, I now have multiple menus to choose from. I have my old menu, the new menu, and I have my tutorial menu to choose from. And it just gives me, by default, home. And from here I can add new items. I can go to site pages, and we get a whole list of all the site pages we have. We have home, tutorial, portfolio, shop, everything that we had and made in our pages we see over here. So I'm going to now just add tutorials, portfolio, shop, contact, and I will add Bagul so you guys can see what happens here. No problem, Alicia. I'm glad you're digging the tutorial. All right, so I just pulled out everything here, and you guys can see Bagul is not uppercase, so I'm just gonna go back in here, B-A-G-U-L, capitalize all of that. Make sure I go back to home too, and there we go. From here, what I am going to do is I'm gonna double check I'm gonna go back to my layers, and I'm gonna double check our section grid here. Change grid layout. I'm gonna go to advanced mode just so I can see what's happening here. So this makes it a little bit more clear. You guys can see how my grids are created. We have this section over here, specifically for the logo, and we have all this space just for the menu, and then we have this little bit of space right over here for our social media pieces. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start working on our social media pieces. What I'm gonna do is I am going to go and click in this section. I'm gonna right click, quick add image, and let's see where that popped up to. Sometimes when you add an image, sometimes it like goes off and goes to the right, so I use my alignment tools to bring it exactly where I want it to, or at least center aligned in the gridded section, or the gridded part of the section that I added it in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change image, and I'm going to grab YouTube first, update. And what I want to do here is I don't want this as a rectangle. I want this as a square. So I'm going to click on the asset. I'm going to go to my inspector tool right here, and I am going to go into, let's see, width. We'll do, you know what? We'll do 50%. And why I'm saying 50% is because what I'm going to do to this grid in a second, you guys will see why. So I'm going to change grid layout very quickly, advanced mode, and I'm going to click up top here. This is kind of, this gets a little complicated. You guys don't have to do this, but this helped me tremendously in terms of my understanding and keeping things locked up where I want them. So like I said, we're going to go into a little bit of calculations, but it helped me, and guys, I don't like numbers. So I think this is going to be very helpful for you all. So I've clicked on top of this third column. You'll see you won't see 0.4, but you'll see something number FR. I'm going to click FR. I'm going to go to calculation, and basically what I want this to is basically ask me what size would you like this portion of this section. And so because I want each block of the social media to be around 64 pixels, I'm going to do 64 pixels plus 64 pixels to adhere for both the blocks that I want. Okay, so I'm going to click out of that, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here, and we are going to do, so we have width at 50%. We might go to fixed here. And so I'm going to do width 64, height 64. So now we should have a square YouTube. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my alignment tools. I'm going to left align. That should left align to that nice little block that we had, or the nice little line. And I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm going to hold Control D to duplicate. And I'm going to pull this to the right. Whoops. Let's see. There we go. Just had to drag it on over. What's going on, Ruben? All is good. And I'm going to change this to our, I was about to say to our editor X, but this is Instagram. So this is what our menu looks like. This is nice and organized. We have our logo, we have our menu, we've added bagules so you guys can see how to add additional menu items. I'm going to pull that out just for a second so you guys can see how to remove from menu. Good to go. And now we're going to start working on the rest of the space here. So first things first, again, going back to my reference, which I hope I didn't take off the screen. Anyways, here, I have it right here, guys. So for reference, this is what we're working on, right? So we have somewhat of a 50-50 split. We have text over here, we have an image, and we have our logos down below. So this is what we're going to do. And Lorraine, this goes into the questions of how do you deal with sections and containers and grids. So we're going to dive into that. So first things first, I'm going to select this section. It's selecting the image, so I'm going to go to my layers panel, section, and I'm actually going to rename this to main section. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to apply a grid, and I am going to do a 2 by 1, and I'm actually going to add one little sliver at the bottom. I'm going to go to advanced mode. I'm going to go to the left hand side over here. Excuse me, I need to move this. And I do want to add a grid, or a row rather. So you guys can see I can add columns here. If you hover your mouse to the end of these little poles over here, I can add a column if I wanted to, and it just adds a new one. I'm going to undo that. Or I can add rows, which I am going to do. So add row, there we go. So now we kind of have a 50-50 and a little bit of a bottom split down here. And one thing I am going to do is I'm going to remove this footer here. I'm actually just going to right click and hit don't display. And what some of you guys may notice is this background image is only, you know, it didn't go down here. So I'm just going to minimize this so you guys can actually see the grid. So we have two halves, and we have two little bottom halves. So now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to just scale this background image over top all of those grids. Then I'm going to expand. And now EditorX knows, oh, because Brandon has expanded this to all, basically in all the different area sections or different parts of the grid, when I expand it, I'm going to take place, or I'm going to expand to all of those different grid sections. Grids and sections. I have to get better at saying that, guys. But basically, in this section, if I pull an image over many of the gridded areas, it's like, oh, when we expand this, we need to take over all those areas, if that makes sense. So next thing, I am going to right click, or I'm going to go back to my layers, make sure I have my main section selected, right click, and I guess right click is, oh, it keeps clicking back on the image. So I'm just going to hit my plus right here, and I'm going to go to media, and I'm going to grab the picture of me. I'm just going to pull that onto the screen here, and I'm going to dock it to the bottom and the right side of this container here. Yeah, Alicia, that's the trick. See, it gets tricky when it comes to grids, but once you understand, you're like, oh, I just have to pull everything. For example, if I make this, you know, if I scale this here, it will only go into that box. But if I pull this, if I have this over all the grids, right, and I expand, it will go over top of everything. I think it, you know, I don't know, I think it, where did it go? It must have moved. Oh, it went behind the background. So basically, the image will take the entire space. So it's all about where you're placing things. Is it in a grid? Is it not in a grid? Is it in all the grids? Are you placing things in just one? So I'm going to pull this back up, and I'm going to minimize it and put it back where it belongs. Left line, or right align, and bottom. And I'm just going to scale this to the size I want. Just a nice little sizable piece right here. And now I'm going to work on the text. Text is super easy. I'm going to click add elements. I'm going to go to text. I'm going to pull in a header. I'm going to make sure we can see this by going to edit text, making this white. Hey, what's going on, Greg? At least she says I literally was trying to figure out the other day. Well, now, my friend, you know. This is why we have the daily creative challenges. So with that said, we have our heading, add elements. I'm going to go into our paragraph here. I'm going to just pull one out. And we are going to also make that white. And we're not going to need all this. This is all placeholder for a minute. So what I'm going to add here is I'm going to hit caps lock, Brandon Groce is teaching the future of design. And I am going to change this to Montserrat. There we go. And I want this to be bold. So I'm going to go back to edit text. I'm going to go to bold. And I'm going to pull this out. So there we go. Very nice. Lorraine says, okay, so the image should hover over the grids where you want it. Good to know. Exactly. Greg says, not much tomorrow going to for the interview. What interview do you have, Greg? All right, so what I'm going to do here is we have our little paragraph, or H2. We have our H1. And what I want to do is we need to bring in a button. And this is kind of where things get a little bit of, it's not super complicated, but when I understood that I could do this, I was like, oh, it helped me understand where containers come in and how to use them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and grab a button. So I go to my plus, I'm going to go to buttons, and I'm going to go to it doesn't need to be RSVP, the button is closest to what I need. So I'm going to pull this and align it. I'm going to scale it just a little bit. I can change the text, and we're going to change this to get in touch. I can also change the properties of really the font. I'm going to go into my inspectors panel right here. I'm going to go to design and go to text, and I'm going to again use Montserrat. I don't know what that is. Monotone. No, where's Montserrat? Here we go. Just like that. And I do not want a backdrop or a background color, so I'm going to pull the opacity down to 0. There we go. I'm going to change the color of the text to white. There we go. And I want a little bit of a thicker border. So I'm going to go to the border. I'm going to go up by like 2 and make sure the border is white. Let's see what that looks like. All right, that's pretty good. So in our original design, we had a gradient in the button. So what I'm going to do here is, and I'm going to name this. This is background image, and I'm going to select this, get in touch. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in a container. So I'm going to go to my plus, I'm going to go to layout tools, and I'm just going to pull out a little gray container just like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this the exact same size as our button. And matter of fact, I'm actually going to put the button inside of the container. And this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to Control X or Control Cut the button, and I'm going to select my container. I'm going to go Control V or paste. And so now our button, as you can see here, our button is inside our container. Excuse me. And so what we want to do is, first off, we do not want a background on our container, so we're going to take that out. And we want to make the container the exact same size as our button. So I'm going to go to the layout panel here in our inspector, and we're basically going to just look at the button's attributes. So the width is 227, and we're going to do we're going to make the width of this container the exact same. So I'm going to change it to pixels. I'm going to paste 227, and we're going to do the same thing with the height. So the min height of our button is 74. We're going to copy that. We're going to go back to our container, and we're going to paste it there. Let me see. And I do want to make sure we don't need this. So you guys see, you're probably wondering, why is all that space still there, even though we've changed the numbers? It's because we added some sort of padding to this when we copy and paste it in. Editor X is smart, it kind of did it for us, but we don't want that, so we would need to undo it. So we're going to turn off the dock from the bottom and from the left, and we're just going to zero these out. Right now you see it's giving us 57 pixels from the bottom. We want 0. and it's giving us negative 0.3% from the left. We don't want that either, so we're going to zero that out. So now what we have is we have a container with a button that is see-through that now we can add a gradient to the back of. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go back to my plus for an add an element. I'm going to go to my media, and I'm going to pull out my rectangle that I have, and I'm going to pull that exactly in that container, and I'm going to scale it. Ta-da! So that's what we have. We have now, if we look at this, we have our container that has our button in it and with our gradient in the background. So perfect. So what we're going to do here, so I'm going to select my container. I'm going to start arranging everything to how I want it. I do kind of want to make the button a little bit thicker, or at least the border. So I'm going to go back into my settings here. I'm going to do a 3, see what that gives us, what that looks like. I'm happy with that. I'm also going to scale this up just a little bit. I'm going to do, let's do 22. And we're also going to change this to if I can spell. All right. Oh, what's going on, Taniki? You have different names everywhere, my man. I'm glad you're hanging out with us. All right, so now we have our little bit of a subhead. We have our H1, and now we have our button. So what is important when we start scaling this thing, and some of you guys might get scared when we start pushing and pulling things, but I'm going to show you guys how to overcome all that so it's responsive. So what we're going to do here is I want to stack all of this stuff. So I'm going to click this, hold shift, click, hold shift, and I'm actually going to use my layers panel here so I can make sure I'm actually selecting the container. And so what I can do here is, now that you see that I've selected everything, I get this thing. Excuse me, guys. Our water was turned off today because we have some construction happening, and I was not able to get any water this morning. My throat was like, Brandon, please. You have to talk for a full hour. So forgive me. What we're going to do is we're going to stack this. And so what this does is we get a nice new little container where we get, and sorry guys, like this is actually really stinging. If you guys can give me like 2 minutes to get this, I apologize. Thank you for your patience. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Let's get right back into it. I didn't want you guys to hear me coughing and hacking. Alright, so with that said, let's dive back in. So what I was saying is we have this nice little stack here. And what it has now is our paragraph and our H1. And we're going to do one more stack because what I want to have happen is all of these assets basically stick together. And so what a stack really does is, for example, if I, for whatever reason, I wanted this text to be on the bottom, and rather than dragging it and trying to find the exact space and the right padding and stuff, what a stack really allows us to do, if we click on the stack and go to the inspector and we go to layout, what this does is it allows us to very easily space items by pixel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 20 pixels here. To add, as you can see, this nice little white strip here, that is the 20 pixels we just added between the items. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make one more stack that includes our container. Just clicking the first stack and container, stack. So now we have one full stack. And so what you'll see here is we have 20 pixels up here, and we have another, actually it's 19, so we're going to change this 20, just like that. So we now have an accurate 20 pixels between each element. And what we can do is, for example, if I wanted to exchange these assets just by moving them. Editor X is smart enough to be like, well, Brandon wanted 20 pixels between each one of these assets, so we're going to make sure that there's 20 pixels between each one of these elements always. So I can decide to mismatch and change these at any given point, and everything will, let me see, I think because this one is in a different stack. There we go. And sometimes you have to finagle some of these things, but the fact is, especially when we start getting responsive, like this is a lifesaver, so you don't have to keep rearranging things. We'll get into that, and you guys will understand why this is really important before you guys start doing responsive things. All right, so we've stacked everything here. We're just gonna make sure, stack, we're good to go. And now we can manipulate this as a whole, which is excellent. So what we're gonna do now is we have our face in place, we have our text in place. Now we're gonna work with this little grid down here, which looks like this. So we have text over here, and we have 4 other logos, and we have some lines and things of that nature. So let's work on it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another container. So we have our main section, we have our stacks, and I'm going to click main container. I'm going to go to our plus, go to layout tools. I'm going to grab a container, and I'm going to pull this right down here. I'm going to scale this down and across. Now I can scale it, and it will go to both ends. Perfect. Now what I want to do is I'm going to make a grid for the container. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to do a 4x1. Perfect. And just like what we did before, I am going to change grid layout, go to advanced mode, and I am going to scale the left side further, and the other right sides are going to get squeezed. Now actually, before I do that, I do want to add one more column. So now that we have 5, we have space for our text, and then 4 logos. So now I'm going to pull all of this to the right. There we go. And now this is the easy part. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the inspector piece here. So Lisa says, why 2 different stacks? That is a great question. And someone more qualified might be able to answer it a little bit better. So if I try to unstack all of this, let's do that. All right, so let's unstack. And if I try to select all of this stuff, right, I'm going to unstack this as well. Good question, by the way, Lisa. If I select all 3 of these, right, and then I stack, what happens is, actually it did it. That is surprising. Oh, wait, no, see, no, it didn't. So I have not been able to figure out a way as to how to get all of these things stacked together. It always just does 2. So how I've done this in my way of going around it, again, there is no, especially in design, if I'm showing you guys one way, that is not the end all be all. This is what's helped me to get the outcome I would like. And if you guys figure out a better way, hey, listen, this is what the live is all about, because we're teaching each other. I've solved some problems, sharing that with you guys. And if you guys come up with amazing other solutions, we're going to integrate that together and get better together. So the only reason I do 2 stacks, back to your question here, is even if I select all 3 of these, right, and I stack, it only puts 2 together. So in this case, it put the top text and the bottom in our H1 in a stack. And so what I've had to do is select this last container and stack it. So it just, everything is in one stack, if that makes sense. It's a little complicated, but it gets me where I need to go. And obviously there's another way where you can create a container. Like another way we could do this is if we go to and create a container, we scale this to the size that we want. And this is actually, honestly, this is probably a simpler way too. We're going to turn off the background, and we are going to apply a grid. We're going to do a 1x3. And we're going to make a section for each one of these pieces. So for our Brandon Groce I'm going to cut that out. Go to my container that I just made, paste it. Paste. Bring it to that section that I wanted to stay in. Teaching the future, cut that out. Go to my container, paste that in here. And we have our button where we have, let me click my button, where is it at? This is why you name things, guys. Let me see, maybe it's already in the container. Nope. There we go. All right, cut that. I have to name that button because it just says container. I'm gonna paste that in there, and I'm gonna pull this right over here. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you can do this, and you can manipulate this and things of that nature. But I don't do it like this. I haven't, like this keeps everything together. For example, this container, I now can use this pretty much like the stacks. But I haven't practiced it like this, guys, so I do not want to lead you guys with the time that we have left, which is 15 minutes. I don't want to go take you down a road I haven't paved and or walked. But that is another option you can do to keep things together. So I'm going to Control Z till we have our 2 stacks for myself. All right. So I'm just going to center this using my layout tools, center and center. And now let's go back to this container down here. So first off, we're going to take out the background. We already have our, just double checking that the grid stayed. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, pulling this down just like this. And now let's start to work on it. So I'm actually going to go back and make this, I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. I think what I would like to do, let me see if I can do percentage. I think I'm going to do 50. There we go. So it's a nice little split. So the left-hand side should now be exactly right here, and then we have 4 spaces for the logo. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just copy this here, this text, copy, paste, or Control D. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to paste. And now I'm going to just copy the text that we have. Boom. Paste it in here. I'm going to increase the width of this just by dragging. And I'm going to center this in this grid section right here. And now I'm just going to go grab the logos. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to select my container, and we do want a border here. So I'm going to go to my inspector, go to my border right here. I'm going to click white. And I'm going to give it a width of just 1 for now. So we have a nice little border like this. And now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually align this just like this so that there's a nice invisible line here. And now I'm going to start adding our logo. So I'm going to go to plus, media, and I'm going to show more so I can actually read the titles. So I'm going to grab Editor X, add to page. I'm going to scale this puppy down. I'm going to add this right here. I'm going to center it right in that section using my alignment tools, 1, 2. I'm going to press Control D to duplicate. I'm going to drag that into the next section, align to that grid section, Control D. And I'm just going to do the same thing one more time, and I'm going to replace the image with the other logos. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to click Image, Change Image. Tanaki says from a dev point of view, it definitely works. It definitely works. All right, so I am going to do Adobe Next, update, change. We are going to do LG. And As you guys can see, it is cropped, so I'm going to click the cog here. I'm going to reset image size. And I'm going to make sure this is in the center here. And we have one last logo, which is awards. Hit the cog, reset image. And now I can play with some of the sizing here. So I'm going to, we'll do 45. Nah, it needs to be smaller. We'll mess around with 30% for the LG logo when it comes to the width. I think Adobe is fine, Editor X, fine. And now, if you guys can see, I did this on purpose. All of these images are a lot less or a lot more opaque than Editor X. How I can change this is I'm going to go to Settings, I'm going to go to Adjust. Actually, there's another easier way, but you can do something there as well. I'm going to go to my design here, and I'm going to go to image opacity, and I'm going to just drop that down. We'll just go to straight 50%. All right. So we have pretty much the structure of the desktop. There are other things that we can add, but these are the simple things, and I do want to also make sure that we can get what we came here to do, which is the responsive things, at least done. So let's start getting into tablet. And of course, guys, this is going to look really funny, but I'll show you how to fix it all. So we're going to go ahead and go to tablet. Now, there's very few tweaks that we need to do. First off, you'll see a couple movement pieces here. One, this kind of got jacked up. I'm over here. All this got messed up, but this is actually going to be really easy. So what I'm going to do here and first is this menu. We no longer need this, at least for tablet. I don't think we need that there. So I'm going to go to my layers here. I'm going to go to the three dots, and I'm just going to have don't display. We have the hamburger menu that is now there. That is, which I love about Editor X, it just immediately populates as soon as you start getting into the tablet or mobile sort of breakpoints. So now let's go ahead and fix this grid when it comes to our tablet. So I'm going to click on our menu, change grid layout, advanced. I'm going to scale this up, give some room for our logo here. Done. I'm going to go to our settings here, reset image. So we get our full logo. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. Make sure that puppy is centered. UI UX tips says nice. Indeed. Wait, hold on. I wasn't looking. What just happened there? All right, let's see. Center and let's see. Maybe it went underneath something. It did not. All right, I'm gonna hand do this, guys. Boom. Boom. Okay. So next we are going to do, I'm gonna make sure that our socials, I'm gonna pull this over to the left. There we go. Make sure it's docked to the, I keep saying left as in right. Okay. I'm gonna pull these together, make sure they're both docked to the right. And now I'm just going to expand these things. And because they're stacked, they rearrange themselves. I just need to give them the space they need, as well as the container or the stack. I need to increase that as well. And you guys will see, I'm just resizing everything. To the size that I want. There's no hardcore thinking. It's just like, oh, things got messed up. Well, this is the resize this is the true size we need them to be at. Okay. And those things went off screen because they have some sort of docking to them that they shouldn't. And we're just going to set all these things to 0. So here's the short answer. If you guys, because I've talked to a few people who've used Editor X, and they're like, well, when we start doing responsive stuff, things get out of hand and I don't know how to fix it. The first thing is, usually it's just a sizing issue. Make sure to resize your boxes. Give your content space. Either that, or we'll talk a little bit how to deal with your grids. All right, so let me go here really quick, and I want to Aha. So why this is also doing this is because we have a grid here. And what I'm going to do here, so our main section, if we remember, if you guys see this, we have a 50-50 split. We want to change this. We want to have, we want to flip this. So rather than a kind of, actually, let me see this. We're going to play around here. We do not want that. All right, so we're going to change this a little bit. So we're actually going to keep this, and rather than 100, we're going to do this. Let me grab the topmost stack. Let's see what's going on here. We have our section, and guys, nothing is ever perfect. Like even when I do my other design things here, some things happen. We have to figure out what's going on, and then you know, just see what's happening. For example, there was a 71 put here. We're gonna pull that out. We're just kind of diagnosing and seeing what's happening. Let's drop this down to 60, because right now we're having a container width challenge at the moment. Okay, scale this up. And there is a number of, there's numbers coming from something. So let's figure out where that is. I'm gonna not dock that. I'm gonna pull this over here. So there we go, there we go. Okay, so a stack right here. We don't want that dock, and we want to zero out these numbers. I'm just going to try to undock some of these things. And I think one of the main things that we have here that is the issue is I'm just going to delete this grid right here. I think that's the main problem that we're having. Change grid layout, I am going to just delete. I'm going to go to advanced mode, and I'm going to delete one of these. So delete column, go done. And now I'm going to see what happens with some of these things. And we might also have to remove a stack as well. But a lot of the responsive sort of situation, guys, is just, what is the word that I'm looking for? It's testing. You got your desktop down, now we're shrinking it, and things happen, and we got to see what we need to either remove, take out. And so I'm actually going to unstack all of this. I want to see really what the problem is here. So I'm going to undo all of this. There's this box here that is just huge, and we don't want that. It has a width of 190%. Let's go to 100. All right, let's pull this out. Okay, we do have a little bit of a stack that is with us, or this last stack here. I'm going to decrease the size of this text. We're going to bring it down to, say, 60. Boom. Click this, drag this out. We don't want it on two lines. I'm going to pull this inside of our stack here. Line all of this. I'm going to select, oops, I need to grab the container. Line this, okay. Now I'm going to grab my container, my button container, and my thing here. I'm going to drag this, oops. I'm going to see if I can stack it here in the mobile and see if we have a challenge with this. Stack. Drag this up here. Just a little bit of magic, guys. We have to finagle some things. I'm going to pull my image up just like this. And now what needs to happen is I need to dock some of these things. Because what is going to happen is between this and this, for example, this is what we need to fix, right? What is happening here, we don't want to happen. So we have to figure out how exactly we are going to do that through docking. So I'm going to undock from the right here. I only want this stuff in our stack to dock to the left. So I'm going to go here, it's dock to the left, perfect. We're going to make sure it's 0. From the left, same thing here. We're going to dock it to the left. Our container here, dock to the left. Perfect. And we do need to fix this here. So we're going to edit our text. We're going to bring this down to about 13 pixels. And we are going to edit the container grid, advanced mode, and we're going to make some more space for our logos here. Right about there. I'm going to center this. And I'm going to make our logos just a tad bit bigger. So we're going to do about 60% of the section or the gridded area. 60%. We'll do about 45. And we'll do 60. All right, so we have these bits, and now let's see. There are going to be mishaps when we start expanding, and that's really our job to figure out. All right, so when we're around here, this is what we need to fix. So what we're going to do here is we are going to pull this out. We also need to fix our grid layout here. We're going to pull this out just a little bit. And ladies and gentlemen, the main thing here is actually there's a lot of work that needs to go when it comes to adjusting the in-between states of breakpoints. And that really the refinement comes after you get the desktop, mobile, and tablet. So really what I'm going through now, I typically wouldn't dive into until after I have desktop, tablet, and mobile, and then I start pushing and pulling and finding where the errors are and adjusting for those. So what I'm going to do very quickly, because we are, I think, over on time, I'm going to just do our mobile version, show you guys how to arrange those things, and then in future tutorials, I will show you guys how to actually deal with and control how things are, the state they're in when it comes to the in-between states of going from mobile to tablet to mobile, because these things are super important. But since we can't pack all of these things in an hour, I want you guys just to get a taste of how to get these responsive just in those desktop, tablet, and mobile. Then as we get more complicated, we can spend an entire time in how to deal with the flexibility, a fully responsive website, if that makes sense. But some of you guys, we're just here trying to learn about sections and containers, and I don't want to throw the kitchen sink at you guys. So here what we're going to do again is a couple things disappeared on us, and we need to make space. So our logo disappeared. We have our social pieces overlapping. So let's go ahead and fix this first. Our logo, we are going to I saw it, but then I was like, where did it actually go? So with that said, I'm actually just going to, where is it? I guess it doesn't want to be friendly right now. Hold on, let me expand this really quick, because I know it's there. All right, here we go. What I do want to do is, when we're in mobile, I actually want to crop it, and I only want to see this portion of the logo. Hold on one second. I'm going to reset it, scale it, and then crop it. Alicia says, I don't get one thing with breakpoints, like why there's a change only to width but not the height when you're in preview mode. That is a great question, and I would highly recommend you drop that into Discord, because I don't know the answer to that, and I think we should be able to have the answer to that question. All right, let me see here. For some reason, I'm not able to crop this in the way that I would like. All right. Well, we'll leave that there for right now, and I'm just going to work on everything else. So I'm going to make sure everything is unpinned, and I know when we scale this down to the actual true mobile, we're going to have an issue here. I just wonder why it's not letting me crop it how just previously did. Okay, well, we're just going to work with the full logo for right now. All right, now what I'm going to do here for the rest of this is I'm going to give a little bit more room to our social pieces over here. I'm going to center, or rather, let's see. Move this a little bit here. Move this a little bit to the right. But when it comes to actually getting to mobile and tablet from desktop, there's a lot of maneuvering. But the thing is that it doesn't take a lot of technical skill to get what you need. Literally all you're needing to do when it comes to tablet and mobile is just how EditorX reads it. It's like, we have all this stuff on the screen. What would you like us to do with it, and how would you like it to look on the other breakpoints? And that's kind of really what I'm doing. A lot of what it is that you're seeing me do is just pushing and pulling widths, changing, for example, like this stack. You'll see this box is too small, so I need to scale it up. The text is too big. Some things get docked to the wrong places because, you know, EditorX makes estimations. You just have to tell it that's not what we're trying to do. Make the text smaller. We'll do about 50. Go to our stack. We'll move this to the top here. And we'll make this text a little bit smaller too. We'll go about 45. That way we can bring this in. And we are going to pull this up here. Scale this. Lorraine says crop it in the media file and then bring it in. I know. We can totally do that, but I did, and I have no idea why it's not working right now. What I did in the previous, I'll show you guys what I did. If we go back to what I made here, and I hope that my changes didn't make any problems happen here. So I have, this is just one file. I have the logo, and it's the same logo in mobile. And what I did is I cropped it, just like this, if you guys can see that. But for whatever, you know, for whatever reason, it's not playing nice with me right now. And it is doing, it's expanding for, this is why I think next time I will have to do a completely 100% new file, because some of the changes that I'm making here are changing the things up in other pages and vice versa. But these are the things you got to learn when we're doing challenges for the first time with EditorX, or at least for myself. All right, so let's see. And there is some separation I do want to make with these. That's really simple. I'm going to go to add element. I am going to go to decorative, and I want my vertical lines here. So I'm going to just drag this in here. I'm going to do a 100% height, center that vertically, left align, and I'm going to basically Control D that and do that for the rest of these sections here. Control D. And Control D. Using my alignment tools to make separators. All right, perfect. So I'm going to expand this because we only want 3 lines. Okay, our tablet is looking good, and now we're just going to, whoops, there was this that we wanted to change. It's got some docking going on. I'm going to turn that off. I'm just going to center it here. Scale it down. Center this. There we go. And see, we still have our lines down here. This is very nice. So now let us figure out this puppy. All right, so we have, and also we have, we have this. I'm just gonna scale this. Make sure that, I'm gonna actually change this to fixed, because this should be 64 pixels by 64 pixels. There we go, that was the issue. 64 by 64, excellent. Okay. And now I'm gonna go to this container and I am going to change the lid or the grid layout, and I'm gonna do vertical. And there we go. So we have all of the, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change this to about 25 pixels. I'm going to scale this. I'm going to make this center. There we go. We might make this a little bit smaller. We're gonna do about 20. And now we need to make our vertical or our horizontal lines for these logos, because we have these lines over here, but we don't see them anymore. So what we're going to do here is we are going to add, well, actually we're going to make all those lines that we made that were vertical, we're going to not display them. So I'm going to go to more actions, don't display. And now we're going to make our vertical lines. So I'm going to go back to our decorative assets here. I'm going to go ahead and grab horizontal lines. Just pull that in. 100 width. 100%. I'm going to bring our alignment tools, making sure that they line up right against those lines that we have for our grids. I'm going to duplicate and do the same thing that we did for our desktop for this. Duplicate. And one more time, duplicate. All right, now we're gonna, with some of these logos, they are chopped off. So again, reset image. And if they are, one thing I did learn, guys, is if you start to see, even if you do reset image and you do see some cutoff things, make sure when you bring your assets in here, make sure you give some, a little bit like between 2 and 5 pixels of space between your PNGs, so that you don't get hard cuts around the edges. So reset image. Okay. So we have all of our logos. We can actually make these even smaller. For example, since we don't need all that space for each logo, I can go to change grid, advanced mode. And I'm actually gonna make all these tiny. I really could make these 100%, or excuse me, 100 pixels, which is what I'm going to do. 100. And 100. Now, another thing that you could do, for example, is you could have this whole piece here, and I can make a whole nother grid. Actually, let's go ahead and try that. We are over time, but let's see if we can. I'm going to go to advanced mode. I'm going to add a column here. I'm going to extend this across. I'm going to center it. And I am going to do, I'm going to add Adobe over here. LG. Awards. And I'm going to center all these logos just like this. And the cool thing is that because I've made this change on mobile only, it will only be a change on mobile. It will not affect the higher breakpoints. Again, I'm going to drag this over, make sure that this is 100%. It says 100% right now because it's only looking at the section that it's in. But if I drag it over, then it understands that there's more that it can go. 100%. And we don't need these, and we can also delete. I'm gonna bring back one more vertical, just like this. And I'm going to pull it from here to the top. And I'm gonna get rid of the other sections. So I'm gonna create or change layout, I'm going to delete this row, and I'm going to delete this row. And I could, let's see, I'm going to make this 100. There we go. So there we have it, guys. We have a clean and there's other things that we could have added to this, guys, but for time's sake, we have our full, I'm going to preview this, 1 second. And I do have, I made this sticky, so actually let's see if we can fix that very quickly. Let's see if our menu will allow us to actually pin this now. I'm going to make this, I'm going to right click this, set to master. I'm going to make it a header. And let's see if, there we go. Now we can pin it and we can overlap next section. Perfect. And I can turn off this background now. And now our menu is overlapping our content. So how we did that, just very quickly, is I clicked on my header, I went to inspector, layout, I went to position type, I turned it into pin, and I just clicked this overlap next section. And so with that, we kind of have it, guys. We have our mobile, we have our tablet. I'm trying to get everything out of the way. And I do want to move this just a little bit, just the little bit of perfectionist in me, just, you know, just down here, just a little bit. But there we have it. We have our mobile, we have our desktop, and we have our tablet. And it looks like this needs to be pulled down to 100%. Shwoo! And of course, guys, this thing here, I think I do want to add just a little bit of a background here, just so that there's a nice little overlay. And maybe on mobile, we just don't do a sticky one. Maybe we don't. So what I can do here just to fix that is I'm gonna not overlap it. And I'm just going to have it as default. And give the background back. Okay. So there we have it, guys. We have our desktop and, oh, why did it change up here? Oh, because I took off the pin. Overlap. Thank you. I guess that, oh, because it's a master, guys. I apologize. That's why. And I hope if I detach from masters here, it doesn't affect. Go to default. Let me find section. Boom. We do not want pinned. We want default. Let's see if that makes any difference. It does not. Why? Fluid, pinned, default. I don't know why it doesn't want to. This is something we got to work out, guys. This is a little bit of a bug here. But it is not moving from pinned. But things for next time, guys. I do hope that you guys learned. I'm going to Control Z all this stuff. I do hope that you guys learned at least how sections work, how containers work, and how we've used grids to make things super simple. Things aren't really complicated, guys, but I will have answers for you guys in terms of some of the pitfalls that we did find in here, or some of the some of the things that we did fall into. I will definitely be talking with the team in regards to how we can make this a better experience. EditorX still is very new, but you can do some amazing and powerful things in the platform. So I'm excited to see what you guys create. And so to publish your work, let's just go through this very quickly. You can go to this publish button right here, and you can create your, basically you see your URL, you can click done. And you can view your site. And there we go. So with that said, you can definitely, with this link, you can pop it into our Discord for submissions. you are going to go to our Discord, and you are going to drop this in the challenges section right here. Drop your URL. Make sure to write your name, Brandon Groce, or you can just copy and paste what we have here. Brandon Groce, and then your URL down below, and hit enter. And that way we can see some of the cool stuff that you guys have done. Whew! All right, guys, I'm glad we might have to make these an hour and a half. This is learning experience for me, but I hope you all had fun. You guys learned something, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. And I look forward to you guys asking more questions in our Discord. Thank you, Lorraine and Andrew, for asking questions so we could address them here today when it comes to gradients, containers, and sections. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And thank you guys for coming. UI, UX, Tanaki, Lorraine. We had Elijah, Lisa, Maria, all of you guys. Thank you for coming out. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.
Dope responsive websites like this and even this for you and your clients within just minutes. First off, you can achieve all of this and much more in the powerful no-code platform EditorX. On these dates, I will be hosting live daily creative challenges on YouTube to teach you the fundamentals of EditorX and how to create the exact responsive websites you see here, all the way from start to publishing the website. If this sounds of interest to you and you want to improve your EditorX skills, join me live each and every month to get inspired by what amazing things we will create together during our creative challenges, as well as get your questions answered live while we work together. Click the link below to sign up and get notified when the challenges begin, and I will see you in our Discord. See you then.